Hello and welcome into this week's NASCAR K&N Pro Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's K&N East Rewind, we are looking back at the penultimate race of the 2019 season. The Apple Barrel 125, 125 laps, 132.2 miles around the mile, New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire. Now, if you remember the first time we were at New Hampshire this season, Chase Cabrey dominated this race, but that was only a 70-lap race, so a lot more time in this one for things to happen. And we had a name in this race that we didn't have in the spring race that gave Chase a really good run for his money in this race. So first off, let's look, of course, at the caution flags. 5 for 16 laps in this race. First one came very early at lap 2 as the 51 of Max McLaughlin spun in turn 2. Now you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Max McLaughlin's usually in the 1 car, that Hattori Racing 1 car. It was still the Hattori Racing car this week, but it was a special paint scheme in honor of Mike Stefanik, who of course passed away this week. Again, our condolences to the Stefanik family and all his friends. But really, really cool paint scheme from Max McLaughlin. Unfortunately, didn't really get to do much with it this week. Lap 25, we had a caution for debris in turn 2. The first brake caution came at lap 40. Second brake came at lap 80. And then final caution of the day came at lap 99 for debris in turn 1. So the Max McLaughlin spin on lap 2 was the only caution for an incident in this entire race. 3 lead changes in the race among 2 drivers. Chase Cabrey led from the pole for the first 7 laps before being passed by Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs, running the 54 this week for DGR Crosley, led the next 71 laps. Laps 8 through 78. Cabrey retook the lead on lap 79, led for the next 6, before Ty Gibbs again retook the lead on lap number 85. And Ty Gibbs never gave up the lead after that point for the final 41 laps, leading 112 laps in this race on his way to the victory, his first K&N Pro Series victory, and what a dominating win it was. I think we're finally seeing the true potential of Ty Gibbs. Remember last week we saw him win the ARCA race at Salem, his second ARCA win. I think, knock on wood, I think Ty Gibbs has finally broken that second place streak that he had going. Even after winning that ARCA race at Gateway, still continued to finish second a lot after that, both in K&N and in ARCA. I think he's finally gotten over that hump and finally really figured out how to win now. And I think we're just going to continue to see good things out of Ty Gibbs going forward. And again, this was Ty's first time at New Hampshire this time. So the kind of pattern that I talked about on the ARCA rewind from last week, of where you don't really see much out of him until the second half of the race because he's continually learning the track. Well, that wasn't really the case this time around, because he took the lead on lap 8 in this race, and after that point there was only 6 laps that he didn't lead in this race. So obviously had this place figured out pretty well from the very beginning of the race. So that being said, I think we should really watch out for him to be a real threat come the IRP race here in a couple weeks for ARCA, because I think he's going to be a real threat in that race, as he usually is on the ARCA side of things. Teammate Tanner Gray came home in the second position for a 1-2 finish for DGR Crosley. Josh Berry, now with the Visconti Racing team, came home with a very solid third place finish. Josh Berry, if you're not aware of that name, has been a late model driver for Junior Motorsports for years and is really touted as one of the best unsigned drivers, I guess you could call him, in the country. Just hasn't really been able to find the sponsorship to make his way into the upper series. Good to see him getting a chance and being able to show what he can do. I really haven't seen much of him in anything above late models recently. He did run a one ARCA race last year. I believe it was in a Chad Bryant Racing car. But other than that, we really haven't seen him until now. So hopefully this is the start of something more with that team, and hopefully he is able to put up some good runs in that 74 car. Spencer Davis came home in 4th, and Sam Mayer rounded out the top 5. Rest of your top 10, Chase Cabry fell all the way back to the 6th position at the end of the race, right in front of his teammates Ruben Garcia in 7th and Nick Sanchez in 8th. Justin Carroll, last car on the lead lap, in 9th, and Robert Pulowski rounds out the top 10. Final page, only 14 cars in this race. Max McLaughlin only made 112 laps, out with electrical issues. And then Bill Hoff had a fuel pump issue on lap 112 as well. So that is your results from the Apple Barrel 125. Working on a Ty Gibbs interview. I'm sure we're going to be able to get it. He's always really good about giving us interviews whenever we need them. Just trying to figure out when we can fit into his schedule. Should be within the next day or so, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. Always a great time talking to Ty. He is a really good kid. And always really fun to talk to him. So look out for that here in, I would say, in the next day or so. Not really 100% sure yet, but I'm sure we will have that here coming up here very soon. So let's take a look at your point standings following this race. One race remaining in the K&N East schedule, and all but wrapped up now. Well, I think pretty much wrapped up for Sam Mayer at this point. 30-point lead over Chase Cabry heading into Dover. I don't see the car count at Dover being high enough that there will be a 30-point spread in that race. So I don't know that you can officially say he has clinched it at this point, but I don't see the car count being high enough for Chase Cabry to make up 30 points at Dover. Because you look at the point spread from New Hampshire. We had 14 cars in this race. Ty Gibbs made 48 points by winning, and Bill Hoff back in 14th gained 30 points. That's only an 18-point spread from first to last. You'd have to have almost 30 cars. I guess you wouldn't need exactly 30 cars, but you'd need about 25 to 30 cars really to be able to close that gap. And then Sam Mayer would have to finish last if Chase Cabry won at Dover. So I think at this point we can safely say, unless Sam Mayer just doesn't even show up at Dover, but even at that point, if the car count at Dover is low enough, I think he's still got it wrapped up. So I think we can safely say at this point that Sam Mayer is your 2019 K&N Pro Series East champion. A really good season out of Sam Mayer. Good to see him be able to pick up this championship win. It is a little heartbreaking for Chase Cabry, as this is definitely the best season he has had in the K&N Pro Series East, and he was definitely a legitimate championship contender. Unfortunately, a few bad runs at the end of the season just kind of took him out of contention for this one. Spencer Davis there in the 3rd spot, still possible for him to jump up into that 2nd spot, depending on what Cabry does at Dover. Then we got Tanner Gray back here in 4th. Spencer Davis trying to hold down that top 5 spot. He's only 5 points up on Ruben Garcia right now. So Garcia trying to sneak back into that top 5 before the end of the season. So we'll see where all of these positions shake out once we get to that final race of the season in Dover, coming up here on October the 4th. So just a couple of weeks here, one off week. I think that's just one off week, and then back in action at Dover, and that will be the season finale for the K&N Pro Series East. But that's your point standings following the Apple Barrel 125 with one race remaining in the K&N Pro Series East. Congratulations, I think, are in order to Sam Mayer. As, like I said, I don't see there really being any way that he loses this championship at this point. I don't think it's possible unless we just get a gigantic car count at Dover that I'm not expecting, which I don't see happening. Not with where things have been this season. So congratulations to Sam Mayer on that. Well deserved. And we'll see what happens at Dover, see if he can pick up another win before the end of the season. But Cup Series Rewind coming up here in just a little bit for their race in Richmond last night. We had an Xfinity Rewind go up for their race Friday night from Richmond, so go check that out if you haven't already. Diecast review coming up on Wednesday. Should be Denny Hamlin's Daytona 500 win, as long as that shows up in time. And then got lots coming up next weekend. Action from the Roval for the Cup Series and Xfinity, and of course K&N West is in action next weekend from Meridian. Remember the race that Haley Deegan got her first win in last season, so always an exciting race out there in Meridian, and of course we will have rewind shows for that as well as the races from the Roval, so keep an eye out for those next weekend. But see, if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. Oh, and I almost forgot, podcast is starting this week on Wednesday. I don't know a time yet. I'm thinking 7 p.m. is when we'll have that premiere. But we are definitely getting that recorded this week unless something weird happens. So look for that Wednesday night, 7 p.m. I'll have more details as we get closer, but we are finally starting the podcast this week. I think it'll be a fun one. And so yeah, should be a fun week coming up here. But this has been the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.